On 29th of October 2021, Mark Zuckerberg made a stunning announcement that Facebook will now be called Meta. And as soon as this announcement happened, the press went crazy, social media was on fire, and the world finally realized that the next big thing in tech has actually arrived. And just as we were trying to sing this in, Mr. Satya Nadella presented Microsoft's version of the Metaverse. Nike has already registered its assets for the Metaverse, and H&M has already opened a store in the Metaverse. And all of this reinforced the fact that Metaverse is not just a fancy sci-fi looking concept, but literally the next version of the internet itself. But while most of us only know that it's the next big thing, very few of us know why exactly is the Metaverse important. Which is why, in this episode today, we're going to cover 3 important points. Why is the Metaverse such a big deal? When will this technology actually be accessible to people like you and me? And most importantly, what exactly is the utility value of the Metaverse? This video is brought to you by thefixedincome.com, but more on this at the end of the video. People, by now, I'm sure you already know what Metaverse is. Long story short, it is a virtual world wherein, just like you and I can talk to anyone on Facebook even if that person is on the other side of the globe, in the Metaverse, you can go one step ahead and literally interact with that person, laugh with that person, and even go to coffee with them in the virtual world, as if you're actually meeting them. Furthermore, because of this virtual world, just like we have these amazing game worlds like GTA 5, Witcher, and Fortnite, you can literally travel to these fascinating places and have a fantastic virtual experience with your friends. Now the question over here is, doesn't this all seem unreal? I mean, they say that you have to wear this giant box on your head to get into the Metaverse. This box, if it's Oculus, will first of all cost you 37,000 rupees. On top of that, you need to hold something in your hands all the time, and most importantly, with the current internet bandwidth, it's not even possible to use the Metaverse. Then the question is, why are companies like Nike and H&M so aggressively trying to embrace something that cannot even be used by most people? Well, the simplest analogy to understand this would be to understand the evolution of Spotify and how accurately they chose to enter India only after 2019. So if you take a step back and look at music streaming as a service, it is accessible to the people only when there are 4 entities that are aligned and functional. Number 1 is the technology to use the service, which is earphones and wireless earphones. Number 2 is the network to connect you to the service, which is the internet. Number 3 is a service platform, which is Spotify. And then we've got creators like Joe Rogan and Ed Sheeran who create music and podcast episodes that we can listen to. So if you see, had Spotify come to India in 2014, everybody would have called it crazy. First of all, why would you pay to listen to music when you can just download it for free? Secondly, with 180 rupees per GB of internet cost, who had the data pack to keep playing music all the time? And thirdly, wireless earphones were extremely costly back then. So although we had musicians and services, the scope of listening to music and the technology to access the service was not that cheap or that accessible. But then, as time passed, 4 things happened. The cost of internet dropped drastically, the speed of the internet picked up drastically, wireless earphones became extremely cheap, and most importantly, because of cheap internet, our priorities changed from data cost to memory allocation. And hence, streaming became viable and desirable as a service. This is how, when 3 variables, that is, technology of access, technology of connectivity, and creators came on board together, Spotify as a service became relevant in the Indian market. And if you watch Metaverse closely, it's on a very similar trajectory. Even here, instead of Spotify the service, we have services like Facebook Meta or Nvidia's Omniverse, which are Metaverse services. The technology to access the service is a gadget like Oculus, which is extremely costly at the moment. Then just like Joe Rogan and Ed Sheeran, we have creators in the Metaverse, which includes companies that will design worlds, maps, objects, and games for the Metaverse. And lastly, we have the internet speed that needs to be at least 120 to 150 Mbps to be able to access the Metaverse seamlessly. This is where you need to trace the trajectory of these variables in the future. If you look at the past 5 years, the cost of Oculus has gone down from $599 to $299. The average speed of the internet is about to touch 120 Mbps by 2025, and by the time both these things happen, the developers and companies will have enough products and services in the Metaverse that can be utilized by people like you and me. It's very similar to the App Store or Play Store. That is, As time passes, more and more developers make more apps that get better over time. Eventually, it increases the utility value of the service. This is how, as time passes, these variables will make the market and tech both viable and conducive. Now, the most important question of all is, why the hell do we need the metaverse and what is its utility value? I mean, obviously for gamers, it's a paradise. But what about others? How is metaverse going to affect our daily life? The answer to this lies in the most fundamental nature of human beings that turned us from insignificant apes to the rulers of the planet. And this is our ability to bond together, because of which we could form fan clubs, we could form states and even national armies. And this bonding, which is one of the most important features of mankind, is built by three attributes: experience, engagement and expression. To tell you about it, people back in 2019, Parsh and I used to conduct design thinking workshops for corporates, wherein we used to split the entire room into groups of 10 and we used to take up interesting problem statements like, how would you design the most effective parking management system for malls? Or how would you design a malaria awareness campaign to educate an illiterate village? And way before the quick commerce wave today, we used to get executives to solve for, how would you build a cooperative delivery system for grocery stores to help them compete with Big Basket? And these problem statements, if you see, they're quite subjective and they require a lot of presentation, discussion and prototyping. But the one thing that we noticed, both in case of students and executives, was that although many of these attendees were super smart with brilliant ideas, they somehow did not participate in the brainstorming that much. And in a way, it was taking away the essence of the workshop. So you know what? To solve this problem, we started to dedicate the first 20 minutes to conduct icebreaker sessions, wherein we conducted these silly games wherein everybody had to do something silly and they deliberately had to do weird acts in order to complete the icebreaker tasks. And during this entire process, all these executives laughed together, they helped each other, they celebrated wins and losses together. And guess what? Suddenly, after 20 minutes, when we got the exact same people to sit down for brainstorming, every single group was so engaged in the session that they lost track of time. The room was so loud that people from other departments came to see what was happening over here. The room had achieved such level of comfort that a junior was correcting a senior, the seniors were laughing at colleagues from other departments whom they have never met, and most importantly, we also saw the director of the company sitting in between all the juniors and listening to them almost like a student. And it was just a delight to see an experience of fun, creativity and innovation that happened with utmost ease just because of those 20 minutes of interaction. As a result, the ideas that came out of those discussions were so brilliant that it almost looked like a work of a genius. This is how the level of innovation and the quality of ideas in the exact same room with the exact same people was enhanced to a level that it was almost unbelievable. And if you take a step back and see how did this miracle happen, it's a three-word answer: expressions, engagement and experience. When human beings express their happiness or sadness to someone, they bond together because of their shared vulnerability. When human beings work together to achieve a common goal, they bond together. And most importantly, when human beings go through a shared experience of a super fun icebreaker, they bond with each other. And this bonding is what results into great teams. And the metaverse, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most important stepping stones to achieve the same. Because one fine day, there'll be 25 different people from 25 different countries who will be able to brainstorm together, who will be able to achieve extraordinary levels of creativity and innovation because of their brainstorming and drive important decisions for their organization. And considering the fact that we already have teams where a German, an American, a Chinese and an Indian executive have to work together to achieve a common goal, the metaverse can literally help us break boundaries to build incredible teams that can spark creativity and innovation. And this will give organizations three incredible superpowers. First of all, the training sessions of all corporate executives could be transformed from a boring video to an immersive experience wherein they could bond, have fun, and build a sense of belonging towards the company. It will lead to both effective training and increased productivity of freshers as a result of great training. Secondly, like I said, individuals from all across the world will be able to brainstorm together, which will lead to team camaraderie. And eventually, it will result into both better productivity and a much better mental health for employees. Because when shared experiences are created, employees will know that they are not working with a stranger, but with a friend whom they can trust. And if you compare it with the present times, you must have noticed that in your Zoom sessions, if you want to present an idea to your seniors, Because you cannot see their faces, because you cannot sense their reaction, you have no idea how they are taking your suggestions. Because after all, you're just talking to a bunch of alphabets on the screen. So today, even if the seniors of your organization are happy and supportive, because there is no immediate feedback through expressions, it's very difficult to feel comfortable to present ideas. So innovation and creativity is already taking a backseat via Zoom. And last and most importantly, once this comfort is achieved, the attrition rate, as in the rate at which employees leave and join the organization, will go down, because of which companies will save $1 billion in direct and indirect costs. So to put that straight, as the technology becomes more affordable, as internet becomes much faster, as developers get better at building great products and services, and most importantly, as organizations and individuals find a way to express, engage, and experience moments together, Metaverse as a concept will redefine the way human beings interact with each other. And my dream is that, just like we send these Zoom links, I want to send you guys a link to our own classroom, which will be as grand as the Harvard classroom. And I want to teach case studies, tell wonderful stories, and even conduct these wonderful brainstorming sessions by which we could exchange ideas and have an incredible learning experience. Now that would be epic. This is one of the countless applications of the Metaverse, and this is the reason why brands are flocking to Metaverse to have their first mover advantage. And just like working together, Metaverse can help you enjoy countless moments like concerts and games with your friends. Now whether this is good or bad is something that we have to wait and watch. And this brings me to the most important part of the episode, and that are the study materials to help you understand the concept of Metaverse and the disruption that it is capable of. Before we move on, I have an important announcement from our partners, thefixedincome.com, for those who are looking for a healthy and fixed return on their investment. People, just like the Metaverse, in the investing world, there are a lot of changes and new opportunities that are coming up for investors like you and me. One such opportunity is brought to you by our partners, thefixedincome.com. And their vision is to change the investment scenario in India. Thefixedincome.com allows you to invest in various types of high quality bonds like bank bonds, PSU bonds, tax-free bonds, sovereign bonds, 54EC bonds, gold bonds, and many other types of bonds that give you a fixed income after maturity. And not just that, you can even apply in bond IPOs using this app. This is a service by the Tipsons Group, which has been a pan-India one-stop financial conglomerate for nearly 3 decades. With thefixedincome.com, you can start investing in bonds starting as low as 10,000 rupees and get a guaranteed return on your investments. So if you want to make low risk, fixed return giving investment, download the app from the link in the description. Moving on to the references, I've got 3 books for you. First book is this book called Sapiens. The second book is this book called 21 Lessons for 21st Century. And the third book is this book called Homo Deus. And the reason why you should read this book is not because it will teach you about Metaverse, but it will actually teach you what makes humans humans. And when you understand that, you'll be able to understand how Metaverse as a technology will affect our civilization. Because if you look at the internet, if you look at telephone, none of these technologies have changed our fundamental human attributes. They've only enhanced the way these attributes function. So read these books in the same order. That's when you'll get a much clearer idea about the human civilization in general. Secondly, Simon Sinek mentions this company called Next Jump in his book. If I'm not wrong, it's Why Leaders Eat Last. This company was able to achieve incredible growth in revenue and profits because the CEO was able to build a culture of safety in their organization. There is an hour-long YouTube video which talks about the strategies that help them shape a wonderful work environment where only the best ideas win. Have a look at that, because that's when you'll understand the depth of expression, engagement, and experience, which will eventually help you shape a better work environment. And lastly, read this book by Matthew Ball called The Metaverse and How It Will Revolutionize Everything. Small things that make a big difference. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.